Today, Param Satya, the yoga instructor and life coach, reveals the secrets and little-known tips to help you be more happy and successful. What do you think is essential for starting a yoga practice, and what is the triggering point?
The triggering point for starting a yoga practice is wanting to have some change in your life. Realizing that the almost certain probable future that you're going to have is more of the same. So you're okay today, well, you'll be okay tomorrow, you'll exist the next day, and life will go on. But there's some point in your life you realize that you want something different. And that's when you realize, I'm not content with what I have. And that triggering point is there, and then your search, so when you're seeking. And then from that triggering point, you may start the yoga practice. In fact, in the Yoga Sutras, the first verse is Atha Yoga Nushashanam. Now we shall begin yoga. So it's that point when you say, now I shall begin the yoga practice. And then you do the necessary to maintain that practice.
Is there an essential yoga mindset that one should have to successfully practice yoga?
There is a mindset, and the mindset is that you're a student always. Never do you think that you've mastered yoga. You're always in the process of doing yoga. Of course, we want mastery. We want the mind control, we want the breath control, but the 8 limbs of the yoga system, there's mastery there, but the essential part of the yoga system is that you want to practice continually for the rest of your life. You want to have a practice that will evolve as a student for the rest of your life. So that's the essential point. You're always a student. You're always learning.
Can anyone start practicing yoga? Is it relevant for the majority, or do you need qualifications for that?
Yes, anyone can start practicing yoga. Anyone in any condition of mind, any age. It's a system that doesn't require a prerequisite of a certain level of physical fitness. Of course, with some postures, depending on your conditions, you're not recommended to do certain postures. But the yoga system just doesn't mean the physical movements. The yoga system also means your daily practices and routines in life. It also means breath, meditation, and also means devotion. So you have a regular devotional practice in your life. So anyone can start that at any time. It depends on where you want to be in your yoga practice.
What is the earliest age that someone should be introduced to yoga as a spiritual practice?
It depends on the maturity of the person. Some people are quite mature, they could start their yoga practice at 5 years old or 10 years old. It depends upon the practitioner. Especially if the practice is based on the physical movements. Then in schools in India, they have children, instead of playing soccer and baseball, they do yoga for their physical fitness. So the physical practice has no limit or an age. Now, as far as getting into the spiritual part, where you're going to go into the practices, into devotion and meditation, then that may require a bit more maturity, maybe 13 to 15, depending on the maturity of the person.
In your observation, is there a real public interest in spirituality in general and yoga in particular today?
Spirituality has been taken out of yoga not because it's not wanted, but because it's more convenient. It's more convenient to have such a cross-section of the population to come into a yoga class without the whole spiritual aspect there. Because you have to ask the whole cross-section of the population to agree on the terms of the yoga spiritual practice. So in modern day times, just for economic reasons and lack of knowledge and also lack of expertise, most yoga teachers and students are never come in contact with the spiritual aspects of yoga. And the public interest in spirituality is there, but is their understanding of spirituality. So it's a catch-22 situation. You can't really give the spirituality because people are not basically, in a modern day yoga school, they aren't committing to this part of spirituality generally in the yoga school. They're committing to the physical practice.
How many yoga types are there out there on the market?
There's, we can't even, well, in January I had to reapply for my insurance for the yoga school, and I had to scroll through the different types of yoga, and it was close to 102 types. I had never heard of a lot of them, and one new one I heard today was called blindfold yoga. And so people are coming up with different types, just as the variety of everything else in our world. You know, we have to, when we look at our modern gadgets, we couldn't just settle with iPhone 3, or we had to, you know, every 6 months upgrade our gadgets. So it's almost if there's a upgrading the yoga, the different types of yoga is just as fast as the upgrading our gadgets. Hundreds of types of yoga. I'm sure there's some that I haven't even heard about. And each one of these emphasize one fragmented portion of the yoga practice. For instance, the yoga nidra, that just concentrates on the laying down, relaxing portion, the shavasana, and then we have what we call the yin yoga, that started off with doing yoga slowly, holding postures for 25 minutes. So they're all just branching out and specializing, almost as if a doctor specializes in ear, nose, and throat, or ophthalmologist, just breaking the body down. They're breaking down the yoga system, the asana part of the yoga system, and to capture and to appeal to customers, basically. So the theme of that has been around for 2,000 years is basically, that's not anywhere in the picture. Most people don't know what the whole yoga system is. And they don't feel that they need to know because they're getting what they want from coming to the classes. So it's diluted, definitely. And with knowledge, I think people would be able to understand that it is diluted. But right now, the basic person doesn't know what yoga is about.
How would you briefly summarize yoga, what it is and what it is not?
Yoga is a way of life. It is not just mindfulness, because this is another thing that's coming up, mindful yoga. So you're becoming mindful of what you're doing and your intentions. And yoga is like I was saying, a lifestyle in which you have integrity in your activities, and the integrity is based on how you are pleasing the Supreme Lord. That's where all of it rolls up to be, how are you pleasing the Lord? So that is the basic thing. So you do your asana so that your body is fit, so that you can serve and please the Lord. That is the ultimate goal of the yoga process. What it isn't is, it's not simply a gymnastic performance where you can bend and twist and fold and just keeping your body together. Because if you can do that and live to 100 years, but you don't actually understand the Supreme Controller, then what's the use of having all these bendings and foldings and foot behind the head? So unless you really understand what the goal of yoga, then you're not really doing yoga. So that's what it is not.
What are the stages of yoga, and can we briefly cover each one of them?
First two stages, yama, niyama. Things you should do, things you shouldn't do. Third stage is asanas, that's the physical practice. The fourth stage is pranayama, that's when the breathing exercises. Fifth stage is pratyahara, that's when you draw within, concentration. You go within, and then the sixth stage is called dharana, that's when you're focused, your concentration. Seventh stage is meditation. And meditation is not a doing, it's a way of being. Not so, in all the other stages, you're doing something. The last two stages, there's something that is acting on you. So, to understand it, you'll see that the first 6 stages you endeavor to concentrate and to breathe. But the last 2 stages, there's no way to endeavor. It has to come to you, the practice. So you can't say, oh, I'm going to a meditation class today, because you can't force meditation. Meditation is a way of being that you have to prepare with the first 6 stages. So in all these stages, there's also other yoga schools that prescribe to different stages. And the school of Bhakti prescribes that there are stages that you have in pursuing Bhakti yoga. This is yoga of devotion. And depending on the practitioner, where the practitioner is, they can pursue each stage in Bhakti yoga or Ashtanga yoga, depending on their desire, on what they want to achieve, and what they give their word to. So many Bhakti yoga practitioners, they give their word. They accept a mentor, and they tell that mentor, I will promise 4 things to you, and I will keep that vow for the rest of my life. So in your word, you start to develop your practice. So your honor in your word is very important, and commitment.
Is it important to practice yoga under the guidance of a guru, or is that an outdated concept?
Whatever we do, you have to have a mentor. We have the word guru there. If you want to be successful in any aspect of life, you have to have someone who has success in that area. Without that, you can't see the blind spots in which if you're endeavoring for something, you can't see the blind spots. And by not being able to see the blind spots, you're not going to achieve what you want out of the practice or out of whatever discipline you're undertaking. So with the yoga discipline, you have a teacher. You have a teacher who's either teaching asanas, that's why you come to a class, or you have a teacher who, with the Bhakti yoga system, has revealed that they have some expertise in the yoga process, and now they are passing on this expertise to you as a mentor. Without the mentor, like I said, you can't remove the blind spots, and you're acting on areas that you don't know, How can you say, oh, I'm going to act on that area that I don't know, but you don't know it. So the mentor is there, the guru is there to actually assist you in revealing those areas that you don't know. So it's definitely necessary to have a mentor, a guru, and it's not an outdated concept. Everyone's looking for a coach. Life coaches are a dime a dozen, just like personal trainers. In that aspect, everyone's looking for someone to guide them to do things in their lives. So it's not outdated.
How often should the average person practice yoga to feel the difference?
An average person, that is a person who is, it depends on what you say the average person is. Let's put the average person as being between 20 and 45, is that an average person? And one who works at an office job and maintains their family by doing some kind of work, then that average person should practice 3 to 4 times a week in order to maintain the discipline and maintain not just the movement of the body, but the movement of the vital energy throughout the body, through the lymphatic system, the circulatory system. A person should practice that, the asanas, the physical yoga, 3-4 times a week. Now, as far as the person who's doing the spiritual practice, that requires a daily practice. That requires some sort of, you have to do a meditative practice of, often the yogis, they do a meditative practice, but also they do a practice with mantra meditation, where they repeat a mantra. So both are there. One, you should practice at least 4 days a week. The other, you should practice every day. It's a daily commitment.
If you had one secret to give about practicing yoga, what would it be?
It would be deliberate daily practice. And that way, even if it's small, deliberate and daily. Because what happens over time, this small, deliberate daily starts to grow, it starts to compound. And what you get is you get this, after a while, you get this full practice that you've been doing, spending minimal times, but because you've been doing it deliberately and daily, it becomes something that's a part of your life and that increases your optimal health and spiritual well-being.
What are some of the common problems that people experience in yoga?
The common problems that people experience in yoga is that they give up. They convince themselves, some reason, I'm too busy, I'm too unfit, I'm too inflexible, or the rules are too strict, I can't follow that, I don't like what they're doing there. So there's always some way to go back on your commitment to yourself. And that's what happens, is people go back they go back on their commitments. They said, I'm going to commit to be here and to do this process, but they go back on them. So it's, the problem that they experience, that's what we were asking number 15, is that people just quit. And in their progress in yoga, they compare. So 2 major things, they quit, and then they compare themselves. Oh, look what that person is doing. Oh, they've got full splits. What about me? Now, of course, we also have 2 different bodies. So they quit before they can realize any benefits, and they compare themselves with other people who are doing the process, whether it's the asanas or even the spiritual practice. Oftentimes people quit, and then they compare. They can see that different people are functioning on different areas, and they compare themselves to that person. And of course, it's not going to work for you, because you're you and they're them. So those 2 things, quitting and comparing.
So what are the benefits of yoga, and how have you personally benefited from yoga?
From the asanas, the yoga, in the 90s I had bad arthritis in my left hip. And I said, I've got to do something about this, so I'm going to have to carry a cane, because it was very difficult for me to be able to, depend on me balancing on walking on the street. And I didn't want to fall. So I was saying, well, I've got to do something. I'm in my 20s, and how can I be carrying a cane? So I did something. So then that's when I became a yoga teacher, because I knew being a student wasn't enough. So I became a teacher so that I would always be a student. So that's the benefits of yoga, how I benefited. And yoga actually, it encompasses your whole life. So how you benefit from yoga is that everything in your life anything you want becomes possible. Because now you're not limited by those same thought patterns. So anything can be possible. You can create anything in your life. Instead of being boxed in your same beliefs that restrict you, I can't do this, I can't do that, oh, it's impossible for me. Yoga, it frees you from those restrictions in your mind, because you now have mind control. And so in that way, you can actually develop the understanding, I can do things. I can create, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that, and there's no restrictions. So that's the benefits of yoga. It gives you people in society that can be very powerfully committed to helping others in yoga. So it's awesome.
Can yoga help people to be more successful and happy, and in what ways?
Yeah, it can help you to be more happy and successful, but the goal of yoga is not to be happy and successful. That's one of the byproducts. The goal of yoga is to, as I said earlier, is to find out who you are and who you are in relation to the Supreme Lord. That's the goal of yoga, and that's why you sit in meditation, that's why you do deep breathing, learn how to concentrate, and then going to a trance-like state where you are totally dedicated to being a servant of that Supreme Lord. So with that, you will become happy and successful from that. But it's a byproduct. It's not the intent of yoga. It's the byproduct. You'll be happy. You will be successful. And successful in what ways? You will be able to be fully present with what you have at every moment. Whether you're sitting in a mansion or whether you're sitting in a hut, you'll be fully present while you're practicing yoga and whatever endeavors you're doing.
Is yoga a way of life or a way of exercise and meditation?
Yoga is a way of life. It's a way of life of daily, deliberate actions in the yoga system and in the tenets of the Bhakti yoga system, both together, that bring about an enlightened and awake person. So it's a way of life. That is how you are all the time. So you have to watch how you drive. You have to watch how you sleep, how you eat, how you speak. All of these things have to be watched because yoga is you're finding that union and going through the processes of the yoga process. There has to be that pattern, there has to be that daily deliberate commitment that you make. So it's very important. It's a way of life, not just something you pop in a room and then pop out. You don't leave, you don't take off your yoga skin, you're always in your yoga skin.
Are there any milestones or reference points by which a practitioner can track one's progress?
Yeah, especially if you're doing something under the guidance of a mentor, a spiritual teacher, or guru. There are milestones that you will achieve. The milestones is when you are able to commit oneself to do the yoga. That's the biggest milestone. I'm going to commit myself to doing a yoga practice. Milestone number one. Other milestones is generally, once you do yoga, you start to think, oh, I'm going to start eating a certain way because, you know, eating most skillful eating will help you to do your yoga practice. So you have to eat skillfully, you have to go to sleep, you have to do self-study. There's so many things, and that's on our spiritual, if you can imagine a needle and there's a gauge that's guiding us. So yoga is, like you can see, it's going for different numbers, whereas over here is no yoga, and then you're going into the different yoga practices. And then you reach your apex where there's abundant yoga, but there's physical yoga meditation. And then you go over into the other side where you get into understandings, the esoteric understandings of what yoga is. So it's a way of life, and it's a way of life that has this wide spectrum of possibilities.
What is the culmination of yoga?
The culmination in yoga is that you're going to do more yoga. That's how it culminates. Yoga is like a mountain without a top. You have to enjoy the climb because there's no culmination. and the Ashtanga yoga system. And even with the Bhakti yoga system, the practitioners have a culmination which we call praying pure love for the Lord. But even then, that is still a mountain with no top. You are still never at the culmination point when you're practicing in the yoga process. Because how can you culminate something that is infinitely in variety or infinitely expanding and infinitely available? So, what is the final goal that one has to keep in mind when you're doing yoga? The final goal is that you have committed to this and that you will do it. That's the final goal, is that you're always going to be doing yoga.
What are your tips for the lifestyle that goes along with yoga practice?
Well, my tips are no television, no conversations that use language that's negative. You're always using empowering language. And another tip, let me think. Of course, the diet, if you want to be twisting and doing yoga, or if you want to meditate, or if you want to use japa meditation, however you're binding or your union to yoga, it helps to be one who doesn't eat animal flesh. And that's simply, if you look at it at a dietary point of view, it takes a lot of digestion to digest animal flesh. And one of the tenets of the yoga sutras or the yoga scriptures is that one should be nonviolent. So there should be no violence against animals or humans.
Are there any no-nos or rules and regulations to do yoga successfully?
The asana yogas, there are many rules of things, how to bend and use, how not to hurt your knees or your feet. There's a lot of no-nos there. And in the spiritual yoga system, specifically the Bhakti tradition, there are some things that you don't do. And that is meat eating, illicit sex, gambling, and intoxication. And in that way, you are setting a basis of integrity. So integrity is like a triangle. You have the base, integrity, and then along the sides of the triangle are power and leadership. And in that, if you don't have the integrity, then there's no power and no leadership. So that has to be the which one was that?
Any no-nos?
Oh, any no-nos. So I was talking about the no meat eating, no intoxication, illicit sex, gambling, and just committing myself to your word. You say, I'm going to practice, and then do it. So that's one thing. You just continue doing your practice.
What are the types of meditation in yoga, and are they essentially the same or different?
Well, the types of meditation, meditation is a part of yoga, the yoga system. Types of meditation in yoga. There's different meditations. There's meditation that is solely based on going within, listening to the heartbeat, slowing down the life airs, and completely stopping the breath and meditating that way. Then there's a meditation when you're completely going outwards and you're seeing the world as one, everything and nothing at the same time. And then there's different types of meditation, there's different groups. And what happens is because they are so similar, they all they say that theirs is the best, then what you have to do is you have to pick a meditative system and stick to it. Say, I'm going to practice this for 6 months. Do a trial. And then you can understand, which one is best for me. For me, the best type of meditation is called chanting meditation, japa meditation. That's when you have a set of beads we call mala, and you go around the beads reciting the mantra. And in that way, the mind is calm and the mind is focusing on a vision of when you will be able to see the controller, see the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
What are your 3 recommendations to people who want to practice yoga or spirituality but can't get started?
3 recommendations to people who want to practice yoga and spirituality but can't get started. They just walk in and do it. Just do it. And if you have a friend, you can tell a friend what you want to do, and then your friend can assist you in helping you to say, okay, now you want to start the process, then you get a mentor or a friend who can help you. That's the first recommendation for people who want to start yoga. And the second one is there's no prerequisites. You don't have to have 10 years of training at uni to do yoga. So you can just do yoga where you're at, and then success will come, as long as you have that commitment. Now the third recommendation is, let me think. Regular practice, daily, did I say that? Daily practice, finding a mentor, and what was the second one? So daily practice, finding someone who can help you who's doing it, and being committed. Once you commit to your word, then that's it. You're doing it. You can't go back on your word, oh really, it's not what I really wanted. In everything, you have to have a commitment. All of our lives, we have to make a commitment and stick to it. So those are 3 recommendations.
What books would you recommend to become really proficient in yoga and spirituality?
There's a lot of books that have been written about yoga and meditation. So many, you go into any store and you have quite a few books written on this topic. But the book that is, the best is the Bhagavad Gita. This is a book. Bhagavad Gita means the song of God. Gita means song of Bhagavan. And in this book it has 18 chapters, and each chapter is dedicated to one part of the yoga system. And from that you can get just how you can advance throughout the yoga system into a yoga practice that you can commit yourself to, that you can have a mentor or someone who's guiding you and become proficient. And it's all based on how much you want to advance and see how your life can develop, and see how much you can live a life fully and live a life that you love, and live a life that you can share with others so they can live fully. So that's one of the major books. Of course, that's the books on spirituality. We have other sutras that are connected to yoga, but that's the major book that helps people with the yoga process.
So where can people find more information about your studio?
Well, there's quite a few websites. It's a website, we have a website, atmayoga.com.au. You can Google Yoga Brisbane CBD, you'll find our website. And also you can, different sites that have yoga schools enrolled, or you can just find yoga in Australia, we're listed there. So there's, we have a few comments on our yoga studio from the different activities we've done here. So we just Google it, and we'll go directly to our website, atmayoga.com.au, and you can find us there.
How can people contact you?
You can contact by email through the website, or you can contact with our studio number. The number is 0458 108 008. with the suffix, with the prefix 61 plus. And there always will be someone there to answer the phone, answer any questions. And it's quite easy to contact by email, by phone, or if you're used to snail mail, you can write a letter to our P.O. Box 2028, Graceville East, zip code 4075.
Thank you. That was Param Satya, a yoga instructor at the Yoga Studio.